Mr. Chris John Streets for the Honorable Jeff Gahan.
Here.
Honorable Craig Greenberg. Mr. Keith Griffey. Mr. Albert Tubby Purcell for the Honorable Treva Hodges.
Here.
Honorable Gigi Talbot, representing the Honorable Maria Johnson.
Here.
Honorable Tim Kamer. Honorable Dan Eisen.
Here.
Mr. Andy Crouch for the Honorable Mike Moore. Honorable John Ogburn.
Here.
Honorable Carol Pike.
Here.
Mr. Kevin Beatty. Honorable Jerry Summers.
Here.
Honorable Jim Travis.
Here.
Honorable Scott Travis.
Here.
And the Honorable David Vogel. We do have a quorum.
Thank you, sir. Welcome, everybody, to the meeting, the newly elected officials. Carol Pike, good to see you. It's been a long time since I've seen you. Glad to have you here. And I see my representative sitting back there, Ms. Decker. Thank you for being here. With that, we will move on to the minutes. Are there any additions, deletions, corrections, or other concerns with the minutes? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve. Do I have a motion? Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Oh, thank you.
Aye.
Next item is our December financial statement. Tom.
Thank you. Agenda item 5, and it starts on page 31 in your binder. And financial report is through the end of December, so we're halfway through the year. And the first page shows the spending and the various work elements in each division. And overall, we're in good shape there. We had hoped to have a budget revision this month, but we've got some more information we're compiling, and we'll be back in February, so we can make any changes that are needed. But you can see here that we're in fine shape, that we shouldn't have any problems, and we're looking to make sure we make the best utilization of our funds. So as we develop this budget amendment, so the following pages are the agency-wide line item revenues and expenditures, and again, it shows we're in good shape, and we will be making adjustments as necessary, and we don't anticipate any problems there. And I think it's starting on page 38 is the balance sheet, and it shows that we're in a sound financial position. I'll be glad to answer any questions everyone might have.
Any questions? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve? Have a motion, do I have a second? Second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? We thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is report on 7 county services. Jared Woods, would you please come forward?
Yes, sir. All right, good afternoon. Thank you for having me. My name is Jared Woods, and I am the Director of Marketing Communications for 7 County Services. I do have a short presentation. I promise to keep it less than 15 minutes for you, but really want to do a brief introduction to our services. A lot of our goals, make sure it's on here. But a lot of our goals are the same. We are all about community at 7 County Services, and our vision is to boldly provide quality care and behavioral health services to improve the lives of individuals and families in the 7 counties we serve. And those consist of Jefferson, Bullitt, Shelby, Spencer, Henry, Trimble, and Oldham. Yeah, so as I mentioned, we are the Community Mental Health Center. We are actually a certified behavioral community mental health center. There are 14 in the state of Kentucky that cover different areas. We're the ones that cover the 7 that we serve. And what that means is we're able to provide care to individuals, adults, children, families throughout many different core areas. Most of them include mental health, substance use disorders, and emotional developmental disabilities. What we value are compassion. We want to nurture and heal individuals in our community. Be respectful, kind, present, helpful to everybody. We're very intentional with everything we do. We aspire to go the extra mile, to be deeply committed to the work of helping others in their healing journey, and just to advocate so individuals and families can reach their highest potential. That's our main goal. And then we have several commitments. The first is to meet the needs and building upon the strengths of the individuals we serve. The second is to put our community and relationships first, and to listen and respond proactively to our community partners, individuals, and each other. We take our community very seriously. We know that without partners like you to help us on the journey, who are out there with these individuals, we couldn't do the impactful work that we do. So we appreciate it. We're committed to equity, diversity, inclusion. We have several internal work groups, such as the PRAC group, the READY group, which is racial equity, diversity, and inclusion. We also launched the Winners for Wellness, BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, and People of Color Mental Health Summit series last year. Just showing our leadership here. So once again, throughout 2022, we provided nearly 500,000 behavioral health services to over 25,000 individuals, children, and families across the 7 counties region that I mentioned earlier. Those are primarily in the area of mental health, substance use, and developmental and intellectual disabilities. What you learn is everybody's individual journey is a lot different. We have things called co-occurring disorders where mental health and substance use are often linked. The same goes for intellectual and developmental disabilities and mental health and substance use. So where 7 county services really comes into play is we are able to meet people where they're at. We're able to help them on their journey. And as I mentioned before, we're also the certified community behavioral health clinic. But what that means is, first of all, we provide access to care so people can schedule appointments on the referral or walking to one of our 30+ locations. We have several locations throughout all the so we also have, what's really important, is a 24/7 crisis and suicide lifeline. These are when individuals are experiencing a mental health crisis. 911, the appropriate outlet for that, they can dial 988, which will take them to us, and that is for mental health and suicide crisis. We also offer telehealth through a various a lot of individualized services. We do serve veterans. Stress-free payment is a big one with inflation and all the financial struggles right now. We do accept Medicaid and Medicare. We accept all commercial insurance and TRICARE, and we also accept individuals without insurance who may or may not be able to pay. It's part of being this certified community behavioral health center. So our adult services, we have so many individualized services, we can't list them all, but the key ones right here, we have our crisis clinic. We provide 24-hour mental health crisis response, medication management, peer support and counseling, targeted case management. Just on adults alone, we served over 14,000 adults in our 7 county territory last year alone, a very large number. And then child and family, it's the same. We also offer the 24-hour mental health crisis response for our children and their families, screening, assessment, diagnosis, in-home therapy, targeted case management. And because we're located within each county, we can also do services such as primary care screenings. That way they can see one provider instead of having to go to several specialty providers. When it comes to children, last year we served over 8,000 children. We were also in all of the Jefferson County public schools, as well as all the rural county schools, being well represented and working with schools to ensure they're getting the counseling they need. What's really special about our services is they can occur inside the patient's home, they can occur at the school, they can at one patients. We really focus on meeting the community where. Then substance use, obviously you all probably are aware of all the issues that communities facing in terms of substance use, whether it's fentanyl, heroin. It's awful right now. But we provide a variety of different services from assessment to medical detox. We're the only program in the state who can provide inpatient detox for just last year alone, 6 babies, including a set of twins. So 7 needs to celebrate. anything from peer support, drug screens, recovery-oriented medication, and then also prevention. Our prevention team is out all over the certain communities such as Newburgh, such as Kayla, kids who have been exposed to child abuse. And then for substance use treatment, we provided that to over 4,000 individuals. Intellectual and developmental disabilities are very challenging, very diverse. We provide support not only for the patient, but for the family, helping navigate that care, provide speech, occupational, and physical therapy, Medicaid waiver services, helping link individuals to benefits. Targeted case management and supported employment. We work with employers who typically wouldn't hire these individuals who have disabilities, figure out what to do. And then in 2022, we served over 35 individuals in our seven county territories. As mentioned before, I'll go over this real briefly. There's 4 ways to get connected with services through 7 county services. We have phone numbers. We have our website, make a primary care provider. You can simply walk in patients and make sure they're taken care of. Telehealth obviously has been a major focus since COVID, but it's still a strong focus coming out of COVID. We provide telehealth service to over 20,000 individuals last year alone. This is the 988 suicide and crisis lifeline that I mentioned. Just to give you an idea of how 65,000 calls. And then this is one, is an opportunity for each of you all to get involved, to get the community involved. These are crisis cards. I bought a box today that I'll leave on this table along with a small stack of crisis cards. This is a great way. They fit in the wallet. They're very durable. This is a great way to confidentially and discreetly give somebody information on how they can get the mental health and substance use help that they need. It has the 988 suicide and crisis lifeline number. It also has child and family services specific, as well as addiction and substance use. These lines are available 24/7. They will be connected with an individual. Some of our crisis card partners that we currently have include the KIPDA, Louisville Metro Health Department, Winter County Chamber of Commerce, Molo Village in the West End, the Captain Cherries in Louisville. And they have a variety of healthcare providers, first responders, community centers, faith partners, and other non-governmental organizations that help hand these out. It's a very cheap, affordable, and confidential way to make sure somebody has the help they need at the time they need it. We also host several community events. They're year round. You can always find them on our website if anybody would be interested in that. Some other ways I encourage individuals to get involved is just to follow us on social media, to subscribe to our newsletter. There's plenty of volunteer opportunities. I know a lot of schools and youth groups like to figure out ways individuals can get involved, and we certainly have those opportunities available. And then we also offer a professional training institute where healthcare individuals, first responders, and others can come to get continued education hours and professional training on how to navigate those mental health conversations. And then finally, if you know anybody looking for a job, like everybody else right now, we're hiring for a very competitive market. And the one thing we say is there's not enough social workers in the pipeline that fit the need that continues to grow in the mental health and substance field. So if you know somebody who's really all about a career, about purpose, we'd love to talk to them. But I know everybody's hiring right now. So, and that's kind of where I'll leave it. If anybody has any specific questions, you can ask those now. But like I said, I will leave a small stack of business cards here. And then if you all would just do me a favor, if everybody took just a couple of these crisis cards and kept them on you, you never know when you're going to run into somebody who might need it. But it truly is a lifesaver. We see it every day. 65,000 calls in 1 year. It's a need that needs to be filled. So I appreciate you all having us. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions or concerns.
Any questions for Mr. Woods? Seeing none, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you all.
Next item will be Transportation Policy Committee. Andy.
Sir, good afternoon, everyone. Transportation Policy Committee met at 12:30 this afternoon in this room, immediately preceding our meeting here right now. We had, I didn't get a chance to tell the TPC this, but we had pretty close to perfect attendance. I was looking at my roll call and we had a tremendous attendance today. We really did. So I appreciate that on behalf of the Transportation Division and behalf of KIPDA. Thank you so much for being here. It means a lot when y'all are here, and we got a good crowd here today too. So we like to see that a lot. Perhaps it didn't scare them away. We had about the longest agenda I think I've ever remembered in the TPC's recent history. So it might take a minute or two longer than usual here today. Some of the highlights from today's meeting was our long-range plan and TIP, our Metropolitan Transportation Plan and Transportation Improvement Program, long and short-range programming documents that we have for the urban 5 counties in the KIPDA region. We amended that today. The TPC amended that today. So we amend those things. We amend new projects into it, take projects out, make significant changes to those projects that are in those documents. Notable in today's amendment, we usually amend it, by the way, about twice a year, let's say. Notable was a major project in Indiana in Floyd County. For those of you that come in from Harrison County or Floyd County, additional travel lanes down the hill, if you will, coming into New Albany through Floyd's Knobs, and improvements to the I-265 interchange over there. That project got a significant, with inflation and with some design changes, that project's cost inflated tremendously, but nonetheless, that was amended into our program. That project is underway right now. There's some public outreach that just happened this past week and over the past few months. So stay tuned on that one. Otherwise, on the Kentucky side, probably of note is primarily an NDOT amendment. In Kentucky, there's several bridges on I-65 that the Transportation Cabinet is rebuilding in the area between the state airport and downtown. So there's some funding in there for those bridges now. At our meeting today, we also, the TPC ratified the Transportation Technical Coordinating Committee. For those that don't know, that's a supporting committee for the Transportation Policy Committee. Technical committee often includes like city planners, county engineers, other staffs of these agencies. The TPC ratified the officers for the TTCC. TTCC meets the second Wednesday of the month. And those officers this year, our 2023 chairperson is going to be Mr. Matt Nunez, just to my right here. So thank you, Matt, for your service this year. And our vice chair is Aida Kopik. For those that don't know Aida is the director of planning at PARC. Okay, so those are our TTCC officers. Spencer Williams and Alex Brzorski talked about our long-range plan financial plan. Big dollars was discussed today. For those that don't know, our update of that long-range plan is due to be approved by TPC in April or May. We have to do a financial plan for that. And I think the numbers were in the neighborhood of $9 billion. That is the future dollars that will be brought into this region, federal dollars primarily, into this region over the next 26 years. That's a 2050. That's the horizon year of that document, year 2050. And so the TPC approved the financial plan. That was the last, that was the last building block of our MTP that we will bring a draft either in February or March. That's going to be determined probably either tomorrow or next week with which month we bring that to the TPC. Oh, like I said, it was a long discussion. We had a good discussion today about new grant programs from Federal Railroad Administration and Amtrak. So Amtrak has identified Louisville as one of the places that they would like to reconstitute new service. They have interest in coming back to Louisville, okay? Louisville via Chicago, kind of like a Midwestern hub is kind of what they've envisioned. So Amtrak and FRA went to Congress 2 years ago now, so in 2021, and to be dealt into the new infrastructure bill with bipartisan infrastructure law. They presented, presumably to Congress, a map that said, here's where we'd like to go if you give us more money. And they gave them more money. And so they've reached out to not only our area, but other areas across the country about reconstituting service. So the TPC had an interest in bringing an Amtrak person, a speaker to our meeting next month. I hope to coordinate with him today or tomorrow to make sure he can come next month. But to also, there's some planning grant funding that's available, that's 100% federal, to just look at the viability of what it would cost. Okay, it's going to cost a lot, frankly, but the planning grant, how viable is service to Indianapolis and on to Chicago? What Amtrak envisioned was 8 round trips a day, Indianapolis to Chicago, or Chicago to Indianapolis, if you will. And then 4 of those trips, 4 would go to Louisville, 4 would go to Cincinnati. So 8 from Chicago down to Indianapolis, 4, half of them go to Louisville, half to go to Cincinnati. A lot, it's real premature, super premature. We're gonna look into partnering with the 2 state DOTs, with our counterpart MPOs up in Indianapolis and Columbus, Indiana, and also with the railroad and with Indianapolis city government up there too, because it can't just be a KIPDA thing. There's no way it could be a KIPDA thing. It's a 100-something mile journey just from Louisville to Indianapolis. So stay tuned on that. Hope to have something more for you guys, perhaps later in the spring. Safe Streets for All grant, for the new folks in the room, I think that was discussed in the RTC as well. That's a grant, it's a regional grant. It's almost unprecedented in that it's by state, Indiana, Kentucky. We always do that on the MPO side. But in this case, it's Indiana, urban Kentucky, and rural Kentucky. All the agencies that are part of KIPDA, virtually all of them, are a part of this grant. We expect to hear, we thought we'd hear by now, the feds have not announced who was awarded that planning grant. We just hope to hear in the next week or 2. We hope. What that would do is establish or set up a planning process where high crash locations are identified and high crash issues are identified throughout the region. And so what I think is notable about that is that the commitment that we've made to not only assess those high crash issues in the urban area, let's say pedestrian crashes, and as well as the rural area, the run off the road crashes, those types of things. So again, that's an exciting thing. We hope we're getting awarded those funds. All signs point to it, but they don't want to get our hopes up either. Moving on, the 2023 TPC officers were announced. Bernie Bowling from St. Matthews, as the vice chairman of this committee, he has first right of refusal, if you will, to be the TPC chairperson. And so he has accepted that offer. And so Bernie, thank you so much for that commitment for this year. And so he led our meeting today. At that meeting today, Mayor Byron Chapman from Middletown, he was nominated and elected to be our 2023 TPC vice chairperson. So we thank him as well. We recognize our outgoing chair and vice chair, that's Judge David Vogel from Oldham County, who's not here today, and Terry Butler, Executive Director at Park. We recognize those folks today for their service last year. And we also had a bit of a discussion about the urbanized area boundary. I don't want to get too much into it now, but there's serious issues with the census-defined urbanized area boundary that is basically going to shrink the urban area here in Louisville. It has shrunk due to their rules, not ours, not the transportation interest, but rather the Census Bureau interests. And so there's some funding that's at risk, and that we're going to have to probably fight for in the coming years, or coming months, I should say, funding for the coming years, because all of these things are predicated, these long-range plans and short-range plans, they're predicated on us having a reasonable expectation of future funding. So that was a lot. I apologize for taking so long, and I'd be happy to answer any questions about our TPC meeting today.
Are there any questions? One quick one. What constitutes a high crash area? Is there, and I don't hope I haven't caught you off guard on this, but is it 100 wrecks, 200 wrecks, or is there a magic number?
So it's good. That's an awesome question, because I don't mean to be a smart ass answer, but it depends. Because what's really important is not necessarily how many wrecks there are, right? I've gotten in front of the TPC over the years, and I've shown all the dots where every crash occurred. It's to the tune in the 5-county KIPDA MPO region. I think it's to like 35,000 crashes each year. It's crazy. It's just a bunch of dots on a map. And so the interpretation of that is so critical, because you can't just say, where were the most crashes, right? If we say, where are the most crashes, Hirschborn and Taylorsville is going to rise to the top. I'm not going to say that intersection is particularly safe or unsafe, but that's just got a ton of traffic. Outer loops and Preston, other intersections that are high crash. So what KIPDA has utilized over the years is we actually use the 3-pronged approach. How many crashes were there at a location, either an intersection or a segment? So that's one, 3-legged stool, if you will. The second leg of that stool would be the crash rate. How many crashes divided by the amount of traffic that comes through there, okay? So you got a lot of crashes, that's significant, but it's not an end-all be-all, the crash rate. And then the other thing that we like to add to the mix is the 3-legged stool. That third leg is crash severity, okay? So certain, if you put a traffic signal where there's not one, that is not necessarily a safety project. You might have more crashes, okay? And you might be creating crashes that are relatively severe at signalized intersections. You can create some dangerous conditions. And so some other transportation projects can also increase the number of crashes, but decrease the severity. That's a good thing. If you put a roundabout is often thought to be one of those things. It's hard to T-bone somebody in a roundabout. You can crash, you can fly swipe people, but you can't crash, and people are less likely to die at a roundabout, let's say. And so that's what we've utilized. Transportation Cabinet in Kentucky utilizes some similar methods, probably more robust methods actually. They do, and they have some new methods through UK. A level of safety service where they've really gone even deeper than we do with that analysis to identify which locations have a higher than expected crash rate, right? All the roads in Kentucky, we know how many crashes there were, and we know the characteristics of those roads. So how many crashes were expected at a road given the traffic or how curvy it was, how hilly it was. And if through the analysis, a particular location has more than that, then that's excess expected crashes. That's a new term that they've introduced, and that's a really good term because that's meaningful. Again, get beyond the where were the most crashes, because what the most crashes isn't always the right spot to fix at all times. So we hope to implement most, if not all of those through this analysis if we're awarded this grant through a robust process that we would seek consultant support by. So we'd get some more experts and pay those experts to really help us out in this endeavor.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there other questions? With that, I will merge item 7 and item 8, the board officials, for a motion to approve. Do I have a motion? Have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
And those that are going to be at the County Judge Executive Association Conference next year, you'll be hearing from Andy, or next week rather. Andy's going to be presenting on the ads role in transportation. So I want to thank Andy for agreeing to do that for representing the area development districts next week.
I'll try to be briefer there.
Next item, Regional Transportation Council, Randall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Regional Transportation Council met at 1 o'clock in the conference room next door. That consists of Henry, Shelby, Spencer, and Trimble counties. We had a couple public comment period, went over the county transportation updates in Spencer, Shelby, Henry, and Trimble counties. Talked about the Kentucky's Prepared Transportation update. We also had talked about the Kentucky Highway Plan and the shift prioritization process. The area development districts will be going through this process this year again through shift. Also, the MPO, the Metropolitan Planning Organization, will be doing this as well. Chair was Andy talking about this at the conference next week to the county judges and magistrates, so they'll be providing that insight as well. The council also heard about the Transportation Alternatives Program application through the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet is now open for sidewalks, facilities that started in January 13th and go through March 1st. That's on the cabinet's website. It's an 80-20 federal grant application, 20% local. And you just talked about the Safe Streets for All program that the KIPDA region applied for. We're happy and hopeful we'll get that grant too. We also, in other business, we had elected a chairman and vice chairman. Ryan Lemke made a motion to appoint Judge Travis as chairman from Spencer County, and Ryan Lemke as vice chairman, seconded by Jim Travis. Also heard a report from Elizabeth Bowling Schuler, who is our Every Community Council Program Coordinator, and she talked about the Band 4 program. And with that, the next RTC meeting will be March 23rd. KIPDA at 1 o'clock, and it's KIPDA small conference. And on Zoom. That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Any questions?
What did you say about the 80-20% sidewalk grant? Would you say that was coming from, or
It's
projects type?
it's for bicycle facilities, overlook, historic preservation, recreational trails, safe routes to school, projects. And it's the application windows through January 13th through March 1st. We'll be happy to assist with
I'm
those.
supposed to buy it myself, or did y'all buy it?
So in that case, there's an issue of whether or not, because KIPDA gets some of that money sub-allocated, the transportation alternative program in both states, and so the Kentucky money, for those Kentucky jurisdictions in the urbanized area, Grant included, that would have been through our recent call for projects here at KIPDA. However, projects in the urban area have snuck through the cracks and made it through the statewide call in the past. I don't think it's their favorite thing to fund, the folks in Frankfurt, let's say, because they might view it as, hey, you all already you got your piece of it.
The same route on recreational trails, they're going to DL.
Those are, yes, yes.
Which are independent of earmark here.
Safe Routes to School is somewhat been combined in that alternatives program over the years. So yeah, so it's changed over those years. So it is a little bit different.
What's your number?
2315917. 917. That's my cell phone.
9172?
Yes.
Oh,
There you go.
Other questions for Randall? We'll need a motion to approve his report. Do I have a motion? Motion.
Second.
And second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. I've had a great deal of excitement expressed to me, and I'm going to move to item number 18. I know all of you want to get into the audit report. So if I may, we'll jump to item 18 to get our audit report going.
Thank you very much. We have with us today remotely, John Hill is the partner with MCM, and he's going to discuss the draft of the audit and the auditor's communication. John.
All right, thanks, Tom. As you mentioned, my name is John Hill, partner with MCM. I'm going to attempt to share my screen. Everybody see that?
Yes, sir, it's up.
Okay. I believe we sent out two documents beforehand. One is our auditor's communication, and then a draft of the financial statements themselves. I'm going to walk through the auditor's communication first, and then very briefly cover the financial statements. Overall, the audit went very well. If you've had a chance to look at this document, there was not a whole lot of issues to discuss. We had excellent cooperation from Tom and his accounting team. And at the moment, we are prepared to issue an unmodified or clean opinion on your financial statements. We're just waiting for our friends at the state to do their final review and approval related to your financial statements, and then they'll be ready to be issued out the door. A couple of things I would like to mention. If you looked at the financial statements as well as this document and compared it to last year's, you'll see there's a couple of changes in the overall format from this year to last year. There were a couple of auditing standards that were implemented by all accounting firms that modified some of the required communications, as well as changed the format of our opinion. And I'll point that out to you as we go along. As always, we do have our contact information in here. If you ever have any questions, concerns, thoughts for improvement, feel free to reach out to anybody on the engagement team. And really, this slide documents and talks about our responsibilities at MCM as your auditors. At the end of the day, what it's really saying is it's our job to issue an opinion on your financial statements, as well as an opinion related to your federal awards that you received in the current year. But at the end of the day, these are your financial statements, including the notes to the financial statements, as well as you're responsible for the internal controls of the organization. Overall, there was no changes in our planned scope as it related to the audit in the current year. And then this is one of the more important pages. If you were going to look at corrected and uncorrected misstatements, there were no significant audit adjustments recorded in the current year, nor were there any uncorrected financial statements or waived audit differences that were identified. So basically, everything in your trial balance is reflected in your financial statements that you see. Accounting policies. There was one accounting policy that was adopted in the current year. That's leases, which we've talked about many times over the prior years. it had no impact on your financial statements in the current year. So from a comparability standpoint, there's nothing in the accounting rules that change the way your numbers are presented. However, you will note there's a subsequent event where you did enter into a new long-term lease that will result in the recording of a right to use asset as well as liability in your financial statements next year. As we've talked about in the past, there are accounting estimates that are inherent in your financial statements, and those are listed on this page. Accounts receivable and related reserves, the OPEB and pension liability, as well as depreciation related to property and equipment. We do look at these estimates and are comfortable with how they're reflected in the financial statements. There were some changes in the way the state is allocating the pension cost in the current year, as well as the changes to the discount rate, which lowered your overall liability as it's reflected in the financial statements. Financial statement disclosures. These are some of the more significant disclosures in the financial statements, but really there's no changes in your financial statement footnotes. These next two pages are new communications in the current year. One is significant unusual transactions. If there was any transaction that occurred that we have not discussed previously in any of the slides, we would bring it to your attention here. As you can see, there was no significant unusual transactions to be reported. And the second item we're required to discuss is significant risks. So as you're all aware, we do a risk-based audit approach, and that determines which areas we're going to focus on. You'll see here listed significant risks that have been identified that we take into account. One is management override of internal controls, improper revenue recognition, and then unsupported or biased accounting estimates. And that could be either too conservative or too aggressive in your estimates. The couple of things I will point out: these risks that are listed here are applicable to every organization, regardless of industry. So it applies to not-for-profit organizations, manufacturing organizations, you name it. So these are not unique to you. Secondly, improper revenue recognition, that is mandated by accounting standards. So that would be applicable to every organization. And lastly, there were no changes in our auditor approach in the current year based on these risks that have been identified. There is one recently issued accounting standard coming into play in the upcoming years. That's compensated absences. It'll have some impact on the footnote disclosures, but really no impact to your financial statements. And then these next two slides are important as well. Internal control matters. Not aware of any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies that need to be reported to the board. This would be, cash wasn't reconciling, your detailed ledgers were not agreeing to the general ledger, so that is good. And then we did not become aware of any fraud or illegal acts or non-compliance with laws and regulations as a result of our audit procedures. Just like to remind everybody, our audit's not designed to detect that, but if we came across anything, we definitely bring it to the appropriate level of attention. And then from this point on, it's really a lot of yes, no's. I won't read them all out to you. I will point out we do monitor our independence on a quarterly basis as well as annually, and take that very seriously. And we are not aware of anything that would impair our independence as related to your organization. And lastly, consultations with other accountants. This is what we refer to as opinion shopping. Not aware of any instances where you didn't like the answers we were giving and then went to other accountants to see if you get an answer that you liked. Any questions related to the required communications?
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the audit as submitted. Do I have a motion? I have a motion. I have a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Tom, I am delighted to see that no classified material was found next to your courthouse. Thank the auditors.
Years of practice.
We will move back now, if I may, to item number 10, Regional Planning Council. Ryan.
Thank you, Chairman.
I'll be giving a quick update on Regional Planning Council. Like Andy, I think we had a record turnout for this past Regional Planning Council meeting on January 10th at 11 a.m. We had in attendance representatives from each of our counties there. We heard a variety of updates, everything ranging from major street redesigns in Louisville Metro, highway expansions, development of both residential and commercial tracts, and changes to planning and zoning. Our guest speaker for this meeting was Miss Amanda Lemaster from the Energy and Environment Cabinet. She came to speak to us about a new long-term plan that is occurring at the state level within the Office of Energy Policy called the State Energy Program. The mission of this program is to support the utilization of Kentucky energy resources for the betterment of the Commonwealth while protecting and improving our environment. The goals of the program include things like increasing energy efficiency of the U.S. economy, implementing energy security, resiliency, and emergency preparedness plans within the Commonwealth, reducing energy costs and energy waste, supporting local governments in targeting underserved sectors, increasing investments to expand the use of energy resources, and promoting economic growth with improved environmental quality. The Office of the Energy and Environment Cabinet will be working with all of the area development districts in our state to kind of collect preliminary data. So we'll be working with them to put together a couple of meetings with stakeholders, various people that work in the energy utility sectors and other people relevant to that field to try and get them some preliminary data to try and have the state design a more targeted plan for tackling this. Other than that, I think our next meeting will be April 11th at 11 a.m. and we'll be holding nominations for both our chair and vice chair. I've also been making some updates to the RPC council member list. So if you were in a county, I believe we discussed that in the last meeting, but if you're in a county that has any vacancies, feel free to reach out to me with anybody that you'd like to fill those vacancies. Does anybody have any questions on anything?
Any questions? Seeing none, this will require action. Do I have a motion to approve the report? Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next item, Regional Water Management Council, Justin.
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, Board. Happy 2023. Seems like a while since we've seen you all. The KIPDA Regional Water Management Council met on January 10th. It was virtual via Zoom and here in the Burke Room. We met from 1:30 to 2:45, a little over an hour, by a little bit, unfortunately. But our guest speaker for this meeting was Elizabeth Dowling. She was with she's an environmental scientist with the Kentucky Division of Water and Drinking Water Branch. And she gave a presentation on the lead and copper rule revisions that are officially enacted by the EPA last year. The main provisions include a service line inventory and a lead service line replacement plan for all drinking water distribution systems. The service line inventory and the lead service line replacement plan for each drinking water system will be due to the Division of Water on October 16, 2024. A lot of times, when something's due another year away, it's hard for our systems to start thinking about that, especially with how busy we all are. But with something like lead lines and EPA restrictions in Division of Water, this was a very highly discussed topic in our meeting this time. She also provided an overview on how the Division of Water is going to assist systems to comply with the new lead and copper rule revisions and how to collect the necessary data for tap sampling plans. Ms. Dowling also covered the Biden-Harris lead pipe and paint action plan and bipartisan infrastructure law and how those funds are going to be dispersed. The plan will include an influx of funds through the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund Loan, which KIPDA assists our water and wastewater systems in applying for funding for every year. So they're going to look for lead pipe removal with a focus on lead service lines and all replacement. Our presentation brought out, like I said, a lengthy discussion amongst the council, and everyone had a lot of questions about that to make sure they're staying in compliance because it's going to be hard to test for a lot of those lead lines, especially when those service lines are also going to have to be brought into equation. The council approved 8 new water projects in our KIPDA region at the last meeting. There were 2 new projects in Bullitt County, 1 in Jefferson County, Louisville Metro, one in Oldham County, 2 in Shelby, 1 in Spencer, and 1 in Trimble. So Henry was the only one that didn't have one. We also approved an updated version of our fiscal year 2023 KIPDA Regional Drinking Water Priority Project rankings. The West Shelby Water District had 4 projects that they needed to add to our rankings that were approved in our October 2022 meeting. And we just had to get those updated and approved by the council. So we approved those updated rankings. I provided the council with my quarterly KIPDA Regional Water Management Coordinators update. Basically just consisted of an update about all the cleaner water program projects that KIPDA is going to be assisting. We're going to be administering, I think 42 of those. There's a total almost 58 total. We're administering 42 of those. That's just going to consist of helping with environmental reviews, helping do all the exhibits that's going to be required for KIA, and helping them with all paperwork and documentation throughout the grant program. We also talked about state revolving fund loan. There were 12 projects that were applied for this past fiscal year. That's going to be fiscal year 2024. That'll be in the intended use plan. It's going to come out this May or June. So we talked about all those. Division of Water is reviewing those. They always have questions for those. So we're as soon as we get those back, we're going to work with all the water and wastewater systems in your all's respective counties to make sure that we're staying on top of that and answering those questions within the time frame so we can get those hopefully approved for funding. Lastly, we elected our 2023 KIPDA Regional Water Management Council officers. Russ Rose with the Oldham County Water District remained our chairperson, and Arthur Jones, the city engineer for Shepherdsville and Shepherdsville Sewer, is going to serve as our vice chairperson this year. Our next Regional Water Management Council meeting will be held on Tuesday, April 11th at 1 p.m. And that concludes my report. If anyone has any questions?
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the report. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Jackson. Thank you, board.
Thank you. Next item, CDC Division Contracts, Felicia Harper.
Good afternoon. This is page 47 in your all agenda. We are asking for ratification of 3 contracts with KIPDA for administration services for the Cleaner Water Program grant. We're ratifying the Oldham County Water District in the amount of $15,600. Henry County Water District number 2 for the amount of $1,000, and City of Milton for the amount of $1,375. These were originally approved in June of 2022, so just asking for the verification on those amounts. And then we are entering into 6 new contracts for the Cleaner Water Program grants that 2 will be administering. First one is for Oldham County Water District for $7,360. City of Simpsonville for $12,500. LaGrange Utilities for $5,500. LaGrange Utilities for $11,000. LaGrange Utilities for $3,650. And Shelbyville Municipal Water and Sewer Commission for $11,000. So action is requested on these contracts.
Are there any questions? Do I have a motion to approve? I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
Next item is the Land Conservation Water Trails, Recreational Trails, Felicia.
These are 2 grant opportunities that will be closing in May 31st of 2023. First one is the Land and Water Conservation Fund. And this provides federal grant to protect important natural areas, acquire land for outdoor recreation, and to develop or renovate public outdoor recreation facilities such as campgrounds, picnic areas, sports and play fields, swimming facilities, boating facilities, fishing facilities, trails, natural area, and passive park. So if there's any park projects that you all have in your community that you are looking for funding, this is a 50-50 match. It is reimbursement grant, so we will help you all fill out the application and submit that to the Department of Local Governments. You can contact me or one of my staff members, and we'll be happy to do that. The next one is the Recreational Trails Program that Randall and Matt talked about earlier. So this is through the Department of Local Government. This is for any motorized or unmotorized trail in your jurisdiction. This is also a 50-50 matching grant through the federal government. The maximum that you can ask for is $250,000 with the deadline of May 31st. So if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer, or please reach out to me or one of my staff members. So we will.
250 for both.
250 for both. The minimum you can ask is 25,000 with a max of 250,000.
And the matching, correct?
That's right.
Yeah.
Can Indiana apply for it too?
No, they- Yes.
What is the deadline in regards to the Parks and Recreation?
May 30th.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
It's on both grants. please.
Both grants, yes.
Think we might want to share them, Mayor? Other questions?
What's your phone number?
266. It's 714-5167 is my direct line. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next item is revolving the loan and fund update. Ethan.
All right, so KIPDA is in the process of putting together an application to the EDA for a revolving loan fund. The fund will serve 6 counties in the KIPDA region. Those are Bullitt, Henry, Oldham, Shelby, Spencer, and Trimble. Jefferson County is not included because they're already served by RLF locally. Revolving loan funds are mechanisms through which local small businesses are given loans with the intention of spurring economic development and creating jobs. Loan payments allow the fund to be recapitalized and used for the issuance of future loans. 12 of Kentucky's 15 area development districts manage an RLF for their region. And some of the other regions that aren't covered by an ad RLF are covered by a local, by financial corporation that issues loans through an RLF. So we've already prepared the revolving loan fund plan, and we've already given that to the EDA for review. It's in line with our comprehensive economic development strategy, or SEDS. And an overview of the draft revolving loan fund plan is on page 49 of your board packet. For our application to be successful, we need to provide the 20% match, which usually comes from partnering with local financial institutions. It is important to note that RLFs do not actually compete with banks, but are a tool to increase economic development by investing in by taking on higher risk projects that normally cannot obtain traditional financing. And we've engaged with the Kentucky Bankers Association and have sent out information through their distribution list. And no action is requested. However, the next step is to start talking with local financial institutions in your regions. And we're needing to get contact information, get meetings scheduled, and kind of talk them through what we're trying to do, get them to participate. And, part of the ask is for them to participate on our loan review committees, as well as, provide some of that 20% match that we're wanting to achieve. So at the very minimum, we're trying to get $120,000 to gain access to $600,000. But that's the minimum. The more money we raise, the more money we can use for the match and, get more money, get access to more money. So, but that's our goal. That's what we're trying to do. And any kind of contacts with local financial institutions that you have, please let us know. We can, try to get meetings established. So, any questions?
Ethan, thank you. And if you'll get a hold of me later on, I'll get you, I have 4 new banks in Shelby County. I'd be happy.
That would be great.
Correct.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. Next item is legislation, Kentucky. Ethan.
So the Kentucky General Assembly convened for the first day of session on January 3rd. The House passed House Bill 1, House Bill 2, and House Bill 11 during the first week of session. House Bill 1 reduces the individual income tax to 4%, which is continuing work from House Bill 8 from the 2022 regular session, which reduced the income tax and then created criteria for further future reductions. House Bill 2 provides $16 million for the Bowling Green Veterans Center from the Budget Reserve Trust Fund.
House Bill 11 removes $17 million in general funds from the transportation cabinet budget for general administration and support. These funds were initially meant to provide a state match to draw down federal dollars for the electric vehicle charging program. And it was stated that the matching dollars were no longer required, so they just removed it from the budget in order to, keep a balanced budget with the Bowling Green Veteran Center appropriation. And then Senate Bill 10 received final passage and was signed by the governor. That passed unanimously in both chambers and was cleaned up from House Bill 506 from the 2022 regular session, which was related to professional employer organization. KACO and KLC have also released legislative priorities for that session. Some of KACO's priorities are local taxation options, distributing Kentucky's electric vehicle fee and charging station tax to the current revenue sharing formula, requiring the state to reimburse county for any credit given to an inmate for time already served in a county jail pre-adjudication, expanded resources for counties during a declared emergency, and removing newspaper publication requirements. Some of KLC's priorities include revenue diversification, updating the tax structure, transportation funding and modernizing funding mechanisms for local streets and bridges, and economic development policies. And then in your board packet, you'll see your complete bill tracker. Some of the bills are highlighted as priorities. Some of these include Senate Bill 34 and House Bill 105, which is a constitutional amendment related to the homestead exemption. Senate Bill 39, which makes adjustments to TIP project calculation to account for the decrease in the individual income tax. Senate Bill 52, which relates to document storage fees held by a county clerk. House Bill 26, which prohibits public agencies from using public dollars for lobbying purposes. House Bill 34, which allows local governments to create preferences for construction projects that are unionized and use prevailing wage. Let's see, House Bill 45, which creates a tax expenditure and economic development incentive review board. House Bill 71, which is Representative Decker's bill, which I think she stepped out, but that deals with newspaper publication requirements and allowing all local governments to use alternative methods of publication. House Bill 86, which establishes a community restoration tax credit, and House Bill 132, which exempts motor vehicles, recreational vehicles, trailers, semi-trailers from the state and local ad valorem taxes. And so in a short session, they typically come in for a week and then take a break and then come back for part 2 of session. They'll be reconvening for part 2 on February 7th for the 5th day of session. Some important dates to keep in mind. February 21st is the last day for Senate bills. The 22nd is the last day for House bills. March 17th through the 28th are veto days. And the best day of the year, March 30th, is sine die. So that's my legislative updates.
Okay, thank you very much. Item 16, we will drop from the agenda. Kevin's been called into a meeting. We will move on to item 17, nutrition program update. Jessica.
Hello, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. Before any of you all ask, my phone number is 398-1205. That's 398-1205, and I do want you to call me.
So I won't.
I don't believe you. I don't believe you. I think we can help each other out. So thank you. Thank you, Chairman. So it's a pleasure to be standing before you today. As the chairman said, my name is Jessica Elkin, and I'm the Director of Social Services here at the Area Agency on Aging inside the Area Development District. I look forward to building a relationship with each of you who are joining us for the first time today. I'm excited about that. And on behalf of the older adults, those with disabilities, their caregivers, and so many more, thank you for what you do each and every day out there. As promised, I know some of you have heard me talk about this over and over again. I'm here to give you an update on our nutrition program. I've written it out today, so forgive me if I'm looking down, but I wanted to make sure I covered all my bases. So So over the course of our pandemic that has happened over the past few years that we are still in, as you know, our nutrition services landscape changed dramatically. We continue to serve more and more individuals each and every day. For those of you that don't know, our nutrition services include our congregate meal program, also known as C1. So that's if a person goes into a senior center or one of our standalone nutrition sites to have a meal, lunchtime meals during the day. And our home delivery program, which is also known as our C2 program. So C1, one-on-one, C2, to you. We'll get into that more with the board training as we move forward over the next coming weeks. Your advocacy on behalf of our meal program helps to fund what is known formally as the expanded senior meal program. We've been working diligently with our providers, utilizing those funds to continue to serve those needs. Our providers are unwavering. During this fiscal year, we did do something differently internally as well. We began assessing for home delivered meals in-house. So I want to talk to you a little bit about what that is and how we do that. So what the process looks like. So when you're talking to community members or you're referring someone yourself, you know what expectations to give them about that service. So if an individual referred to our agency calls, they are assigned to our nutrition assessment team. I'm happy to say that over the past 6 months, we've worked to close gaps. As Mr. Wood said earlier, we're all hiring. We've got another one that's was full-time on this month, and we're asking the Department for Aging and Independent Living for permission to hire another assessor. That's helped us to make great strides to line up our bowling pins, so to say, so we can strike it all out. So a person calls in, they're assigned to the nutrition assessment team. That person then goes through what we call a level 1 screening and a formal assessment. Once that is completed and a person is deemed eligible, then it is passed on to the provider. So this is a process. It's not an immediate step. It's not an immediate action by any means. We get closer and closer each and every day, and we want to shorten that time as much as possible. So I'm going to give you an idea of what time frame that is. So they've been determined eligible. That individual referred out to the provider. The provider then either has to have an establish a route, and find a volunteer or staff member to deliver that meal. As you're aware, that takes a moment as well. But right now, we are assessing those individuals that have called us from January 17th forward. Those persons would be expected to receive meals going into the 1st and 2nd week of February. Those individuals that qualify for those meals, I think are important for you to know as well. So they're 60 or older. They have an incapacitating illness or disability that prevents them from making a meal themselves, going to the grocery store, things like that. They cannot attend a congregate site, meaning they're not driving anywhere every day. And one of the very most important things, because we don't want to give anybody false expectations, is it is not an emergency meal service. It is not the only food that somebody should depend on. Now, if a consumer calls here, our support staff, when we first get them in the system, ask them those questions. We then refer them to other community partners to make sure they have food. You have food. These meals are supplementary. So we explain that a lot over and over. Because during the whole pandemic, it was if you were 60, you were driving through, or we were delivering out to you meals on an emergency basis. And that landscape has changed. We're back to our traditional requirements. So in some instances, we can also qualify, say if I qualify, my spouse would qualify as well, despite their age. If they are also in the home with me with the same type of circumstances. A child with an adult child with a disability may also qualify as well if they live in my household, if not preparing a meal for themselves. So, but most notably is those age 60 or over with an illness or a disability that cannot attend a congregate site. I also wanted to talk to you a little bit about, because I know that we've explored some other ideas, topics, expanding meals across the region. Ricky Hurst is has been hired on in December. She's right out of London, right, Tricia? We are diving her into analyzing our region right now. So she is very much looking at where our nutrition needs exist, if it's even in a 3-block area, so that we can use some of this expanded meal funding, if available, after we provide what we're already providing out here, to really target those areas for home delivered meals and congregate meal services. Thank you all for your approval to move forward with requesting a food truck. We have, we're actually sending up tomorrow. We sent up our first request for the ESMP ideas, including the food truck. They came back with some questions. We're finishing up answering those just a long, to explore food truck ideas. We're also out here discussing potentially food boxes. Now, whether that becomes a meat product or meat and produce, et cetera, a small pilot we expand on, we're very excited about that as well. And everything else to come. I don't know how else to say that, because we are literally entertaining every single idea we possibly can to expand meal services, including more assessors, home delivered meals, and looking at our congregate program to see what potentially, if we have enough funding to sustain a second congregate meal, that the department may or may not permit us to do based on need. Y'all have my phone number, 398-1205. If you have any questions, please call me. If you have any concerns, please call me. Or shoot me a text and say, what are you events between these times? Please give me a call. That's perfect for me. Let me know when you're ready. Because we're going to do it here. They are doing it. I do want you all to know that. I've said it many times, and I'll say it again. We have the best network of service providers in the state. What they do out there every day is the goodest thing they do, especially as far as this nutrition program is concerned.
Any questions for Jessica? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Move down.
I was gonna say this, Mr. Chairman, I think we all sit here and, you know, she speaks on this subject, and probably truth be known, we don't know how much impact they're delivering out here in these places that he would just appreciate a meal. You know, that's probably, I don't see any of us that probably go without very many meals in here, you know, but I think that's what she's talking about, correct? Yes. And that's huge when that, it's sad really that people can't wait to see her service provider show up with a meal.
And we do our very best, sir, to make sure that we ask the right questions when people call in, so that those that are not just calling because they've heard about the service or they could benefit for it, if they're dependent on some type of food, our own staff here will deliver shelf-stable meals out to, if we have a key box in the office. So we're going to make sure that people have what they need while we're in the process of setting up standardized services. And like I said, I'm not joking when I say we want to entertain any idea that you have to better serve the community, especially in the rural communities where transporting a meal is difficult to some areas. And in the grand scheme of things financially, you know, how does it make sense? What does it look like? How can we do that better? Person that's kind of off the beaten path. It is hard, but we figure it out. Those providers figure it out. But yeah. Then to serve every single person, possibly can. Come pandemic or snow or hot water, as they say.
Thank you for the comment. Next item is personnel report, Kelly.
That's what we're hiring. Okay, so we did have had a few hires since our last board meeting in November. We have hired Beth Morgan, is the ARC nutrition assessor, is just. We love her. She earned a bachelor's degree in history from the University of Louisville. She comes to KIPDA from Southwest Community Ministries, where she works as a special programs coordinator. We hired Amanda Moriali as a service advisor for Division of Social Services. She earned a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and a master's degree in psychology from the University of Phoenix. She went to Victor from the hospital, where she worked as a mental clinician. Again, Ricky Hurst, as Jessica said, has been hired as a nutrition planner in the Division of Social Services. It's a very big task. She earned a bachelor's degree in hospitality management, health and wellness from Western University. She comes to KIPDA from Mexico International, where she worked as an operations manager. And we hired Nita Robinson, who is the new customer service and database coordinator for the Every Account program in the Division of Transportation. She started this week, on the 25th. She comes to KIPDA from Operation Parent, where she works as the office manager. And then we also have Cheryl Bailey here, who's sitting next to me. She's our new director of administrative services. She's level inherited some of my roles. Cheryl has been with us for 3 years now at KIPDA. She's been serving as a private contract assistant, and Cheryl came from Travelers before she was at KIPDA, and she worked as an operations manager supervisor for 17 years, so she has a lot of experience. We're very excited to have her on board. We have a few resignations. Ariana Delgado resigned as the customer service database coordinator in the Division of Transportation, effective December 2nd. Terry LaRue resigned as the Michelle P. Waiver case manager, effective January 23rd. Valerie Moore, who is a transportation planner in the Division of Transportation, resigned effective today, or no, tomorrow, I'm sorry, January 27th. And Adrian Vick, our receptionist, has resigned, and her last day is tomorrow, the 27th. So these are our position vacancies. In the Division of Social Services, we have a service advisor for the home and community-based waiver, a case manager for the healthy waiver, an on-site connector for the Connect program, 2 aging and disability resource specialists, a home care case manager, and a deputy director of social services. The Division of Finance, as y'all may or may not know, Tom will be retiring at the end of March. So we actually made an offer and had someone accept today. So they will be starting February 27th. More on her next month. And hopefully she'll be, no, she won't be here for the board meeting. Division of Transportation, we have, we're looking for either a 1 or a 2 or possibly even a level 3, because I received a resignation yesterday from Nick Bale. He will be leaving with the Transportation Planner 3. He'll be leaving at the end of February. Currently our staff count is 83 full-time permanent, 1 part-time permanent, 3 full-time temporary, and 1 part-time temporary. This concludes my report. Questions?
Are there any questions? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve as submitted. Second. Thank you. All in favor? Oh, thank you. Next item, audit services RFP.
Thank you. The audit that was presented today was the 3rd year of a 3-year procurement that we did, and all ads are required to reach out to the state auditor every year before we enter into audit contracts with independent firms. And for the year ended June of 23, the state auditor has advised us that they will not be doing an audit. So we will need to do a procurement, and we would propose that we would do a 3-year procurement again. So it would be for 23, 24, and 25 year ends. And we'll put a provision in there so that the firms will understand that if the state auditor does choose to do the audit, that they obviously won't be needed that year. So we would put a provision in there that we would be able to extend the contract beyond that 3-year period if need be. We'd be glad to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? Do I have a motion to approve? Motion, do I have a second? Second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next item is Medicaid fund recruitment update.
Just a brief update. At the November board member, the board authorized pursuing legal action for recoupment of funds from fiscal year 17 and 18 in our Medicaid program that we have not been paid for. I was directed at the time to reach out to the governor's office to see if we could reach a remedy. I spoke with the governor's senior advisor, Rocky Atkins, and then that spurred some conversations with the Cabinet for Health and Family Services. Were advised by our attorney that we needed to exhaust all administrative remedies before filing the legal actions. We actually have a meeting with the cabinet on Monday. And then following that Monday meeting, I will be in touch with the executive committee to let them know the status. And then also I will continue to report back monthly. But again, at this point, we are just waiting for that meeting on Monday.
Any questions? Next item, legislative breakfast.
Every year the ads do a legislative breakfast at the cafeteria at the Capitol Annex. And this year it's going to be on February 9th from 7 to 8:30 that Thursday. We have invited all legislators and upper level executive branch officials. Obviously, every KIPDA board member is invited. Immediately following that meeting, we will be having the Kentucky Council of Ads board meeting. KIPDA is represented on the Kentucky Council of Ads board by Judge Jerry Summers and Judge Dan Eisen. At that meeting, we'll have Senate President Robert Stivers and House Floor Leader Stephen Rudy is the featured guest. And the important business item at that meeting will be naming the replacement of Tony Wilder, who had resigned as the executive director of KCADD. So again, everybody's invited on February 9th. I'll send out an email just so you all have that information, but again, you all are welcome to attend.
Any questions? Next item, intergovernmental reviews.
Well, to keep on with the records, I think this month we have a record in intergovernmental reviews. We have 27 that are listed in here. Many of those are related to the round 2 of the Cleaner Water grant program. And for the new officials, because I know you all are probably surprised receiving all these, one of KIPDA's roles is the Intergovernmental Review Agency. So we want to make sure there's no duplication of projects. So that's why we send it out to the local governments to look at the projects and sign off to make sure that they're in alignment with comprehensive plans and just essentially the vision of the community. So all 27 of these projects were submitted for local review and have been approved so they can be taken together. Action is requested.
Are there any questions?
I'll make a motion to approve them all.
Very good. Thank you. Do I have a second? Second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
As presented.
You must have had a few projects in there. Next item, executive director's report.
I want to welcome all our new board members. Thank you all for being here. It's the 50th year of KIPDA. We'll be celebrating our 50th anniversary on July 11th. So a pretty significant year for our agency as a whole. So thank you all for joining us. And also want to recognize Ms. Stacy Rockaway with Congressman Massey's office. Welcome, Stacy. And also Robert Augustine with Senator Rand Paul's office. Thank you all for always being in attendance and all your all support. I know we are running close to time, so I will say that we have completed the annual report for last year. So a lot of those numbers, like you mentioned, with the mill delivery, with both congregate and home delivered, a lot of the projects within Andy's division, Alicia's division will be captured within that. So we'll be sending out the annual report in the coming days. So please be on the lookout for that. As far as travel, we do have one travel item for your all's consideration. It's for the National Association of Development Organizations Washington Policy Conference, as well as the NATO board meeting, which I sit on. That is in Washington, D.C. from March 11th to 15th. So your all's consideration would be appreciated.
Into Washington, D.C.
Motion. Second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Is there any other business needs to come before the board? Not, thank you all. I know I rushed very fast today, but if I don't get my wife on an airplane to Dallas in a timely manner, she's going to be very upset. You're very important to me, but she is more important. I will ask for a motion to adjourn. Motion, do I have a second? Second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?